Okay, welcome, PLU committee members. I think we can call the meeting to order. Are you ready, Madge, for taking the roll call in the minutes?
Yes, and let's make sure
Okay.
we get the transcript too.
Yeah, so we'll call the meeting to order at 6:34. Okay, go ahead with our roll call.
Okay, Rosalie Preston,
Present.
Magine Nixon here, Craig Kusunoki.
Craig has an excused absence.
Okay, RV Powell,
Here.
Janisha Robinson. Okay, I don't see Janisha.
Yeah, he might join us later.
Okay, Rebecca Rodriguez,
Here.
Angela Springs. I don't see Angela. And Louetta Watson.
Present.
Okay.
Oh, Janisha is here. She's just unable to use her sound at the moment, so.
Okay, looks like we lost RV, but maybe that's let's bring RV back. RV has her hand raised.
Hi, I'm back. I switched to my computer. Thank you.
Okay. Janisha is here. Okay, so Craig has an excused absence and Angela Springs is not on yet.
No, and I've contacted her for the last two meetings. She was having some health issues, so I'm not sure if that's still the case, but she hasn't been responding, so.
Okay.
Okay, so moving along, we do have a quorum and we'll move along to item 2, which is general public comment on non-agenda items that are within the neighborhood council's subject matter jurisdiction. I don't see any stakeholders, and I didn't know if Jose Ochoa, State Senator Laura Richardson's representative, is present. I didn't know if he wanted to say anything now or maybe later during the meeting, or he's just listening in, but no public comment. Item 3, approval of the minutes from the May 6th Planning and Land Use Committee meeting. Is there a motion to approve as submitted?
I move to approve as submitted. This is Janisha.
Thank you, Janisha.
I second RV.
Okay,
Let me take the roll. So Rosalie Preston,
yes.
Magine Nixon, yes. Craig is excused absence. RV Powell,
Yes.
Janisha Robinson,
Yes.
Rebecca Rodriguez. I think you're on mute, Rebecca.
Yes.
Okay. Angela Springs is not here, and Louetta Watson.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Six yeses.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4 is a status update on the 2 solar impact apartment projects in District 7, and that's the one at 110 West Imperial Highway and also 248 West Imperial Highway. So I did email a contact from Solar Impact, but they never responded. When we go over the ZEMAS, we'll use one of those addresses, the 110 West Imperial Highway, as an example, because when you look up the building and safety information, you can get a feeling for what's holding it up. It's really unfortunate because the project was approved and, is supposed to provide a lot more housing that's needed, but it looks like it's an issue with the one of the businesses that hasn't totally moved out. Okay, and then on the 248 West Imperial Highway, Solar Impact is using that property to store the materials for the other property. So until the other one starts moving, and they'll probably wait to finish or almost finish the 110, nothing is going to happen. So that's a whole other issue that we need to try to get the city to address too. They need some kind of ombudsman to work on these projects that get stuck and try to get them to move along. So number 5 is updates to ZEMAS with an instructional video. Those of us who attended the neighborhood council plan check a month or so ago, the city planning demonstrated ZEMAS, and I didn't really catch what the new updates were. I don't know if Lou was listening, but anyway, we'll do a demonstration of that. I don't know if the instructional video is that helpful, but let's see. I found it on the city planning website. Although I didn't know if it was it didn't really look like it was the most up-to-date version, but so the way I found it, which of course it's not popping up. Let's see. So I put Department of City Planning Los Angeles, ZEMAS, YouTube. And
Is it the department specific YouTube channel? Okay.
Provides users with a convenient and centralized point of reference for planning and zoning information. Use ZEMAS to access information and generate reports for properties located within the city. You can visit zemas.city.org to look up property-specific information, a parcel's land use, zoning designation, applicable plan, planning and building permit history, and more can all be found on Zumas. Again, feel free to explore its many features by visiting zumas.lacity.org.
And then on their website and once you're on this YouTube, there's there's some others, but I think we'll just go into I'll just pull up Zemus. Okay, let me just pull up Zemus. And I just type in Zemus, Los Angeles. Some other cities have a similar zoning program. So you always accept. And so let's put as an experiment or a sample, we'll put in,
Rosalie, we can't see your screen anymore.
okay, let
Do you
me,
mind sharing?
okay, so I typed in Zemus, Los Angeles, and then it comes up with a screen where you say accept. And now I'm going to type in for the solar impact. I'm just going to put in the number. You don't put west, east, south, etc. And then it's just imperial, not even highway. You don't put avenues and things. When you click on go, you have a choice, and this particular one is West Imperial Highway. So this is the southwest corner of Imperial Highway and Main Street. You're able to see, currently they use colors to designate the major zoning. I don't know what's going to happen when they create that new zoning code layer, but so for a commercial, it's a pinkish color, and they also in purple have the zoning on those properties. But you can also, if you go to planning, click on planning and zoning, the zoning does show up along with all the different ordinances that were passed that impact this property, which a lot of them were citywide ordinances, so they're not too specific to this property, but it has the wording about a transit priority area. The pretty much all of us in the Harbor Gateway North area are in the South Los Angeles alcohol sales, which limits the number of businesses selling alcoholic beverages. But for this property, if we go to the permitting and zoning, now theoretically, if you go to the administrative review, I think I checked this. This is where you would find documents for the project, but this is an interesting one where there is nothing posted. That administrative closure. So this is where tomorrow I need to email the planner, Helen Jadali, and find out what's going on. Does that mean the project's not going forward? See, the case was originally filed almost 3 years ago. Wow, that's interesting. But they should have included a scan of the initial documents, because we have those. So closing that and going back, let's see. So going to the building permit. And this is where you could see for this property, you know, in the past, going back almost, well, more than 20 years, there's been a number of problems reported with the property. And then permit information. So this is where, oh yeah, look at that. I didn't notice that before. So it was going to be a new 5-story, 120 units with 28 low income affordable housing apartment. It would be 4 stories of housing over 1 story of parking. And it's a transit-oriented community with additional incentives. And, you know, they issued a grading permit for the building, but application withdrawn. Wow. Unless they're going to resubmit with some type of new application to meet, you know, under new state guidelines. But let's see where I saw about there's something here, and and the dates are not in order. So you just have to keep looking for the more recent. Oh, the application. Okay, that refers to the 7-Eleven. They were going to create a gas station, so that one was withdrawn.
Is that both on the same address, the gas station and the withdrawal? No, the other one was a single family, right?
No, what happened was 7-Eleven got the approval for the new 7-Eleven on that corner with a gas station. Our neighborhood council, well, that was at a time when we were a little more divided in our opinions, but you know, a number of us were concerned to have a 7-Eleven when it seemed like the site was a lot more suited to apartments. But the city planning did approve the 7-Eleven with the gas station. And then a year, nothing happened. And then I don't even think it was a year later, we got an application for the apartments. And when Sola Impact came to a planning and land use committee meeting a couple years ago, they said that, well, we had to ask them, but they said that 7-Eleven had withdrawn. And I think what had happened was Sola Impact actually bought the property. So, and then they said they didn't want a 7-Eleven, and then they applied for the apartments. So, see, in September of 2024, last fall, they had a submittal for the structural review. And then a quality review, well, that was in May last year. Somewhere there's something about the tire place. Okay, so now we have to, the project covers many parcels. So, see, that was in January that they got the permit for the demolition of the existing tire shop. And I know that we saw Aiden Akbarut, the Solar Impact contact, at some event. And he said there was an issue with the tire place, getting them to move out, I thought, but here's a number for Aiden that I'm gonna jot down. Yeah, so there isn't really anything more recent than last September. And it seems like now the whole project is withdrawn. Wow. Okay, so let's see. Some other interesting things on ZEMAS is the jurisdictional. That's how you know which plan area the property is in. The neighborhood council, the council member, the census tract number, and which building and safety office has jurisdiction, so they would work with that particular office, whereas our properties further south would be the San Pedro office, I believe. It has the assessor parcel number, which can be useful to know. Oh, and see, here's some other things. Some of these relate to the state laws. So, see, it's under AB 2097 with within a half mile of a major transit stop. So, you know, that allows for certain things. And then there's these opportunity areas that I think were created under the federal government, and this is a low opportunity area. But it's interesting, it's in the Watts Corridors recovery area for redevelopment. And that's one of the reasons why I believe Solar Impact was interested in this site, because, you know, they're a company that is, they get their funding through investments in their company, and people have an incentive to invest with them, to put their money in, because of those type of redevelopment or recovery incentives. And what we understood from previous discussions with Solar Impact is that if a wealthy company or individual invests, when they want to take their money out, there's a certain time period. But when they do, because it was in one of these redevelopment or recovery areas, they will pay much less. The capital gains is much less than it would have been. So it's an incentive to put your money in that fund. So that's a way that companies focused on creating affordable housing can gain. investments. So let's see, seismic. It will list the fault. We're all pretty much close to the Newport Inglewood fault. And let's see, and under environmental, quite a lot of our areas under methane, but we'll see that later. Okay, so any questions at this point? Okay, so let me go back. I've never figured out if anyone else has. Let me know, but I've tried putting in other addresses, but I can't. I just always have to go out and then come back in. So accept. Now we're going to go down into District 4 and we're going to use we don't quite know the exact address. I'm going to use the address of our elementary school there, the 135th Street. And then this is an example of how you maneuver. I've never really fully understood a lot of these tools, but I think planning department has a video that goes over them. But the one that's I find most useful is you click on the arrow and that allows you to move around on the map. So RV, was it at the end of 130th? This is 130th. Do you think it's this one that's on the south corner at Vermont? There's an apartment building that,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious because they look like they started construction, but
okay, so we're gonna go to the permitting and zoning.
expand and close, huh?
Yeah, but I don't think this is the right one because
No,
I think I looked before and it was one that they were going to build an ADU, right? Where one of the,
I was looking at that. That's what I was,
yeah. So let's see, it's not. Can't be that one because there's no, I know we saw some permit information.
Mm.
So was it at the corner 131st?
Yeah, I think it's on the corner, that in Vermont.
Let's see. Okay, yeah, here's 5 permits. So
Okay.
the problem is you have to go one by one.
Oh,
That's a re-roofing from the
no.
past. Let's see. Yeah, this is it. So they got a permit to convert the carport of the 7-unit 2-story apartment to a ground floor ADU. So that was in September of 2023.
So it's been almost 2 years.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, that's something we need to find out. I thought that permits expired after a certain amount of time.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, that's a good question.
Right. Now it seems like after they applied for the ADU, see, then they had to apply for that soft story seismic retrofit.
Mm,
Oh, and here, so now, last February, they were working on the soft story.
seismic retrofit is per LA Building Chapter Centerville. Huh.
Yeah, because, you know, when apartments are built over those open space garages,
Mhm.
they're not seismically safe. So they're required to do, well, they're supposed to be doing the retrofits, and especially because they were gonna do turn it into an ADU, they were
Mhm.
required, so, but it's been like
Mm.
over a year for all of that, and nothing's really.
Really. Hmm. Please. 100-gallon hot water. Well,
Yeah, often there's permits from other projects on those sites.
hmm.
So any other questions or to look back on? So currently the blue color, I thought blue was, oh, this blue must be, oh, that's the industrial on the other side of the freeway.
Mm.
And then, but look at all these, the red dots are all the oil wells, the closed wells.
Uh, wow.
The green dots are active wells. Those are the ones in our industrial area. There's one, I've never seen that one before. We knew about the one on 131st and on 135th, kind of in the alley, but look, there's supposed to be one under the playground of 135th Street School, a closed well. But there's also one on 136 in Oldwell. So no other dots further south, but it's interesting because
I think there's an active oil well in one of those sites over there where the industrial area is.
oh
Maybe-
yeah, according to this, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. But what's interesting is this area where the proposed Prologis warehouse would go, which is blue for the industrial zoning. It has, the end of that zoning code is O for oil, and yet, we're unaware that there's ever been oil under there. There's no sign of closed wells, so it's kind of odd to have that zoning, but all of District 4 from Rosecrans to El Segundo has the O overlay. And then also Athens on the Hill District, or Harbor Gateway District 5, which all those are supposed to be closed. You could just barely see the green for that Garner well on 126th Street, between 126th and 125th. that we believe is doing the diagonal drilling right like this. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, so just play around with it at home and, use your own home address to look up and see what kind of information you can find. All right, so item number 6 is our other planning issues. So the City Planning Commission did hold the hearing on the Prologis warehouse at Vermont and Redondo Beach Boulevard. They did approve it. Our council members spoke in the beginning and couldn't stay because there was an emergency budget hearing. So later, what he had said, which seemed to indicate that he asked that they further restrict the hours of operation because of the noise impact to nearby residents, but between the Prologis attorney and the vice president of the City Planning Commission, they had a different interpretation of what he'd said, and so although 2 or 3 of the female commissioners wanted to hold over the hearing to get further clarification on some issues, the vice president was rather insistent, and so in the end, they made the motion and voted to support it. There most likely will be an appeal of that decision. The letter of determination should be coming out any day now. Okay, Nancy, let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question about that project. If there is an appeal, is there an opportunity to get involved? I live right down the street and I really don't think that's a good project because I already see a lot of impacts from huge trailers coming through my community. So I'm wondering if there's any way to get involved or just voice like my concerns. I don't know if I'm like too late for that.
So if you can get in touch with me, I can explain a little more. Basically, for the previous appeal, when the project was approved in 2018 with just a mitigated negative declaration environmental review that the state attorney general challenged, and that's why it ended up going through the full EIR process. 2 people appealed, but really you only need 1. And but once the appeal is filed, then it is heard at the Plum Committee, the City Council's Plum Committee. So that they hold their meetings at 2:30 on a Tuesday afternoon. And it would be helpful if you were, able to go in person.
Yeah.
A number of people did go down in person for the City Planning Commission meeting, and I will find out for the City Planning Commission meeting, people were limited to 1 minute. It's very difficult to say very much, so
Yeah.
we'll find out. Maybe I listened into a recent Plum Committee, and there was a limit, but I didn't hear what it was, but it sounded like it might be more like a minute and a half, which is
Okay.
a little better. But what you have to do is you need to start preparing your statement.
Yeah.
It's really helpful if you type it out and practice speaking to keep it, because they will cut you off at the end. And so that's an important aspect to appear in person. And
Okay.
we're going to wait to see then if our Councilman McCosker attends that committee meeting and if he tries to clarify what he was asking for. So, but if you email the neighborhood council, then I will try to get in touch with you on a personal basis to discuss it further.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
And are you on somewhere off Vermont?
I am on Gardena Boulevard in Vermont.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then on California Waste Services, we still need to clarify, you know, how we can address ongoing issues that the permit review did not adequately address, and that the local enforcement agency said other agencies should address. Because when a number of us gathered near CWS to carpool down to the Prologis hearing before the City Planning Commission, it was early in the morning when most of us are not usually there. And so at 7:30 in the morning, there were just so many trucks waiting to go into California Waste Services. And I'm sure that's a violation of their permit. Plus, there were trucks parked on either side of that section of Orchard. And since then, I've noticed that even later in the day that trucks are just parked. And so we have to keep working on that issue.
And also, did they have an article in the paper about them violating?
Oh, yes, by chance, I noticed in the LA Times, I think I possibly forwarded something that out in the Lancaster area, Palmdale, the residents, actually, they've been complaining for maybe 2 years now that waste haulers are driving out there and just dumping out in the desert area. They create berms, so, and then they dump behind them, so they're not, the illegal dumping's not that visible. And then sometimes they just cover it with mulch. And so the county of Los Angeles, I believe it's the county, has filed a lawsuit against a number of waste haulers. And that includes Athens was one mentioned, but also California Waste Services. So Eric Casper, the owner of California Waste Services, was quoted in the article as saying that that was false and that they never had participated in anything like that. But I don't know how we can find out more about that. And also, we did notice when we were waiting to carpool that there was a huge truck, and that's something else at California Waste Services. You're seeing more and more 18-wheelers using that facility. Anyway, it was filled with mulch or, you know, yard waste and it was uncovered. And whether it was because we were all staring at it and some were starting to take photos, or that's what they do, they drive out and then they stop and cover, but so then the guy got out and covered the truck. But I have seen other trucks with other materials leaving there without covers. So that's something else we have to learn. How do you report that? Which agency do you report it to? Who do you report all the trucks lined up and backed up, waiting to get in? Is that Department of Transportation for the city? Is it Highway Patrol? Because they're going to get on the highway. We just, so much we have to find out. And then C, update on the oil well issues. So there's a couple things moving forward legislatively. One is at the state level, because finally the 3,200-foot setback was passed. And that applies to wells throughout the whole state. And I unfortunately missed listening into a webinar on that through CARB, the California Air Resources Board, but CARB on their website has the recordings. So the one I missed wasn't up there yet, but it probably will be. So I'll send out a link on that. Because they're creating the regulatory structure for how to enforce these well setbacks. And even the ones, so our main concern, I mean, we are concerned with the ones in the industrial area, but so at this point, all the regulations refer to the ones in residential or near sensitive uses. So our main focus is the one on 126th Street, the Garner J1 well, that we believe is doing directional drilling to the south and particularly impacting a home on 129th Street. But undoubtedly impacting the homes on either side of it on 126th Street and 125th Street. And it sounded like they're going to require these wells even now to create, and I think it's going to be starting later this month, to create testing for methane release. So that's something that may be a way to rein in that well.
Yes,
And then Arvi will talk about the city's ordinance.
Yeah. Okay, I was in at the meeting. I missed a little bit of it, but it was very interesting. They had a lot of stakeholders and also environmentalists on the webinar from Wilmington and all throughout the area of that about the oil wells. They were talking about the AB Bill 3233 and their and what the city planning is doing is that they want to gather all the information and everything and get the community's input. And they're going to have another webinar later in the fall, so everybody still do the input. But if anybody wants to make comment or anything like that, they can write the email planning.oildrilling@lacity.org. And so they're taking comments right now as to everybody's concerns about these oil drills to shut down these oil wells. And once they shut them down, they were talking about the maintenance, cleanup part of it. And a lot of people were mentioning the impact is the oil wells had in their communities. and how it impacted their health. And it was quite a few calls, quite a few people on the call that came in. They had a lot of comments. So they're going to be focusing on protective regulation um, for the city. So hopefully they will, they're going to send out emails. I just happened to send a reminder and I almost missed it. Um, but it was pretty interesting. So I left a comment about Harbor Gateway North and how we need to look, and the oil companies need to be transparent and do what they need to do to protect the people in the sensitive areas. So that's about it. Um, and so they mentioned something about a Senate Bill 1137 about the state policy also. So it's a lot of things happening, and a lot of people say they want to have this AB 3233. It's pretty, pass quickly. And the way they had the timeline, I didn't get a chance to write it on down, but it's going to be pretty quick, and they're going to have a couple of webinars and give people opportunity to go before the planning and also the council board.
Yeah, so I was able to just listen into a little bit, but the focus is that the city of Los Angeles passed an ordinance to phase out oil drilling near sensitive uses. They passed that some years ago, but because one of the oil operators challenged it in court, it was held up, and then last December, a judge ruled that the city of Los Angeles didn't have the authority to pass that kind of ordinance. Only the state did. But then once the state passed the AB or the SB 1137, that no, it wasn't. They passed something else that gave local jurisdictions the authority to create their own requirements for oil drilling. So then now the city has reintroduced a new oil ordinance, and it's moving through the committees and the city council. But it also, what Stand LA and others are asking is that in setting up the new ordinance to restrict oil drilling near sensitive uses, they also include a moratorium on acidizing the wells, which means allowing them to kind of be reactivated for the drilling. Because if you block that, a lot of them would have to shut down right away. Because otherwise, they're talking about a 20-year phase out, which is just too slow. So I'll email out the email that Arvi mentioned for public comment, and the Stand LA has some talking points, and we need to stress support for this ordinance, but also that the timeline for phase out be shortened as much as possible, and stress and stop the acid maintenance, and ask that the oil well operators be the ones to pay for the cleanup. Number D, the reopening of the Arco gas station. I haven't heard any more. Well, I think I heard after our last meeting from the owner, Nancy Koskos, that what had held it up was they had to get an appointment for LADWP to come out and double check on all their electrical infrastructure that they had to redo because it was stolen. And DWP kept postponing, so finally she called one morning and I emailed Pamela Thornton, the planning director for CD15, with the contact person in DWP, and I guess Pamela must have called right away because shortly thereafter, Nancy got a call saying they were resetting up their visit. And that was a couple weeks ago. But yesterday, I happened to be in our office when a stakeholder called who lives in the apartment building right next to the gas station. And she's been emailing us to find out when it's going to reopen. And she told me that she's seen people working in there and, there's lights on now at night. So it's getting closer, but this has been a terrible process, 4.5 years for a remodel. E on the ED1 projects. So the first one, the 700 West, 120th Street. I don't know if Lou Watson wants to say anything about it. It sounded like there was something filed that's held up the approval, but I don't know if Lou wants to give any update on it. Okay, and then the second one, the 1134 East 120th Street. They have finally completed the demolition there. So we'll have to follow up to see and try to get them back to see if they've done any edits to their proposal that they presented. And the third one, 11840 South Central. I didn't actually drive past that one, but I don't think anything has happened. Still no movement. Harbor Gateway Community Plan. Still no word on when that's going to the Plum Committee. We're hoping it's sometime this summer, and other planning and land use issues. Oh, relating to, I meant to mention under the oil drilling, somewhere I heard about this website. It's called Frac Focus. Because we believe the well up on 126th Street is being fracked to, break up the rock to get to more oil and gas. So I went on that website earlier today and you can, I think you can actually put in an address, but I just search by California because it's a database for the whole country. California, Los Angeles County, and then Los Angeles City. And the only fracked wells that showed up were 4 off the coast of Wilmington, out in the ocean, and they were only supposedly fracked for a short period in 2012, which that's the year that we first became aware of all the oil drilling when a thumper truck was sent around our neighborhoods to map out the remaining oil and gas in the Rosecrans oil field. But it's interesting because for each of those, you can pull up a report on what chemicals were used to frack. And that's really interesting. But supposedly, no other wells ever were fracked, which we know is not true. So I don't know how um, rein in these wells that operate without permits or without reporting. And it seemed like there was something else that I was going to mention. Oh, yes, the modular housing proposed for 116th place between Avalon and Stanford. So I attended on May 19th, the Council District 15 organized a follow-up meeting at the Bellevue Community Presbyterian Church. And our District 8 representative, Oscar Ruiz, was there, and a good turnout from the neighbors. They had a previous meeting last year at the 116th Street School, and there was a lot of opposition to what had been proposed, even though from the original tiny homes proposal, it's now they're calling it modular housing. They look like prefab buildings, and there would only be 5 of them. The current proposals have 5 to the west of the LADWP power pole. And so there would still be parking for the Avalon Station park and ride. And there would still be parking on the Stanford side. But each building would have 3 units within it. The focus, so there'd be a total of 15 housing units. The focus would be families. Each unit would have up to 4 beds. So the maximum number of people living there would be about 60 people, with about 30 or half as children. They would plan for 11 parking spaces for the 15 units, and they stressed that usually most of the people going into the units would not have vehicles. And the 11 parking spaces would also be for the 2 to 3 staff members who would always be on site. There would be a dog park. There would be a little outdoor space with some playground equipment for the children. Each unit would have a little tiny stove and refrigerator, so you could cook or heat items in your unit. But there would be the plan to provide meals, meals to be heated up from a vendor. There would be social services provided on site, security 24/7, with a security booth to monitor who's coming in and out. LAPD would be authorized overtime to do additional patrolling in that area. And the council office would guarantee additional cleaning in the surrounding area, because particularly Stanford under the 105 freeway is a frequent illegal dumping site. So there was still concern about the project. And so this coming Thursday at 5:30, there's going to be a virtual meeting for the community, and Hopix, who I assume is going to be the social services provider at the site, is going to speak and answer other questions. So the units, the modular housing would be bolted down to the asphalt to make it sturdy. It would be there for 3 years with the option to renew for 3 more years. The idea is that the families would be formerly homeless families or families that have been living with relatives and, wanting their own space. They would move in, and with the help of the social services, within 6 months to a year, would move into more permanent housing. So any other issues, planning and land use issues that people are aware of? Okay, if not, so we should decide on our next meeting. Should we stick with the first Tuesday in July? I think it's before July 4th.
I think that works for me. I think that's the best option, versus other dates in July.
So we'll be meeting again next month on the first week, and then with the new board coming on board, we gotta go through the process of nominations and all that.
Oh, right, yeah. So we would be able, I think we could meet as a committee for that first Tuesday. And then the following week at the board meeting, we need to reappoint all the committees. So current committee members need to let us know if you want to continue on the committee so you can hopefully be reappointed. I think it won't be such an issue with the stakeholders. Sometimes there's kind of a lot of board members who want to be on the committee. There can only be 4 board members on the committee, so.
So what
Okay,
meeting is that, Rosalie, that we would have to get appointed again? That's
the
the first
first,
board meeting in July?
yeah, July 8th, Tuesday, July 8th, and we are thinking of holding that one in person at 555 West Redondo Beach Boulevard. So if you're wanting to be on the Planning and Land Use Committee, we'll ask that you express your interest in writing through an email. And ideally, if you can be there, but if not, we'll make the appointments. The Planning and Land Use Committee is usually the most popular committee. Okay, otherwise, just keep us informed if you hear about any issues. We will, I believe, at the July meeting, we will be ready to have the applicant for the 11516 South Vermont Avenue, that large apartment building next to the 105. We may be ready to have them come back and offer some suggestions on, because they're asking for a lot of waivers, and
Hmm.
I had a discussion with the staff from Council District 8, and they kind of explained the parameters of some of those waivers. So, there is some wiggle room, and they could make some adjustments that would make the project more suited to that particular location. So we have to work on that.
Well, somebody from CDA office will be at the meeting too?
We'll see.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay, thank you all for attending. I'm gonna save we're adjourning at 7:45. And I'm gonna save the transcript.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.